This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
All right, good to see you again, and thanks for checking out the Farm Monitor. Kenny B holding things down here in the Macon studio this week. Ray DeLessio, meantime, doing the social distancing thing via the web. Ray, last couple of times we saw you, you were reporting from your back deck. What's up with moving things inside?
Well, Kenny, I wish I could say it was because of the Georgia heat, but let's just say it was a heat of a different kind. Evidently, a certain missus did not like the way I left the deck the last time I was out there recording. So I figured I would move everything inside, try the dining room via the web. But anyway, enough of my domestic drama. Let's go ahead and show you what's on the program for today. Straight ahead, USDA stepping up their game during the pandemic. We'll hear from Secretary of Ag SONNY Perdue about the new Farmers to Families program. Also on the show, is it fact, fiction, or maybe the mainstream media sensationalizing things? Talking about those so-called murder hornets. Are they a threat to Georgia? And then later, Erin NEESMITH is back with another excellent ag adventure. This time, she's going inside a Spalding County chicken house to see the inner workings and how these baby chicks are cared for. All this and more starting right now on the Farm Monitor.
All right, Ray, we'll check back with you in just a few minutes. Well, few industries in the U.S. have been more impacted by this pandemic than agriculture, as dairymen have been forced to dump milk and growers pile over their produce in the fields. However, thanks to a new USDA program, relief is now on its way to them and to the families in need. Damon Jones has that story.
With producers having trouble selling their goods and many families now in need because of a slowing economy, it only makes sense to bring the two sides together. And that's exactly what the USDA has done by starting up their Farmers to Family program.
This Farm to Family program is a program where we are basically partnered with the United States Department of Agriculture to provide boxes, relief boxes, to 501c3 organizations. And our bid that we have been doing for 6 weeks is for 10,000 boxes per week.
Getting this kind of initiative off the ground and implemented in such a short amount of time is unprecedented, and it's largely due to the interest shown by so many different organizations.
Usually these type of programs in a contract arrangement with the federal government most times take years, sometimes at least a year and a half to 2 years. So I think again this it was done on a trust but verify kind of basis. And the other good thing was we had a lot of participation from people who had never participated in a USDA program before. These are a lot of people in this kind of business that had never had a USDA program, but they had the courage to come forth and said, I want to help people, I want to connect people, I want to connect these farmers with the families who need it.
And this couldn't have come at a better time for farmers, as the program provides them an easy way to sell some of their products instead of just throwing them out.
We source it from farmers, and they bring it, it's delivered here, and then we store it, and then we package it in boxes, and on a weekly basis, 10,000 boxes are leaving this facility to go to 501c3s all over the Atlanta area. We are concentrating on sourcing our items from Georgia farmers, and when that's not available, then we're trying to stay regional with the product, and obviously it's money that's going to these farmers that otherwise would not be there.
And USDA hopes this is just the start, as they are actively looking to expand the program in the coming months.
This is just $1.2 billion of produce, vegetables, meat and dairy, and a combination of those boxes that you see going to people in need or food bank distribution. So we expect to open the program up again. Some of those that didn't make the cut the first time hopefully will reapply and be eligible to participate then.
And with a number of farmers, businesses, and families benefiting from this program, participation seems like a no-lose proposition.
Well, it helps, farmer, it helps us as a middleman vendor, and it also helps the families that receive a box. It's a win-win-win.
So it's a great trifecta of a program. It really is the best of the American food supply chain and connecting farmers with families.
Reporting from Clayton County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
As we all know, the honeybee population is without a doubt a very important species, especially when it comes to agriculture. It's estimated that 1/3 of the food we consume relies on pollination from bees, which is why it's vital to have people watching over them. The Monitor's John Holcomb spoke to a beekeeper and tells us what's buzzing in Middle Georgia.
This is Jonathan Nixon, a beekeeper in Middle Georgia that started a beekeeping business with his wife a few years back, and ever since has been buzzing around the Middle Georgia area helping farmers with their crops using honeybees.
Me and my wife, Jessica, started this business about 8 years ago. We were pollinating some squash, and one thing led to another, and we've built our business since then. And currently we run around 650 colonies around Pulaski, Wilcox, and Dooley County. We do pollination service for fruit and vegetable growers. With our pollination service, the farmers rent our colonies depending on what they're growing would be their stocking rate, how many colonies to the acre that they'd like to have. We do 2 types of pollination. Early in the year, in January, our bees go to California to pollinate the almond trees. When they come back in March, we get them ready to pollinate the watermelon crop in Georgia.
In the short time that the bees are around, they are responsible for pollinating crops for farmers and producers. And if it wasn't for the bees, we wouldn't have some of the varieties of fruit that we have.
When they go out to the almonds, they usually stock around 2 colonies to the acre on the almond trees, and it's imperative that they get good pollination to have good nut set on the trees. And also here in the watermelon fields, we have to have good pollination to cross-pollinate the different varieties of watermelons to get the seedless fruit that everybody enjoys, the seedless watermelons.
And as an added bonus, the bees of course produce honey, which the Nixons then harvest and sell to the public.
We harvest our honey in June and in September. Our spring crop of honey, we extract it and we package. We sell to local Ace Hardware stores. We have some local grocers, and we sell to other small mom and pops type stores. It's completely raw, natural honey. We do nothing but spin it out of the comb and put it in the bottle.
But that doesn't come without some challenges, one big one being a parasite that can completely ruin a honeybee colony.
Varroa mites are our #1 problem with the bees. Also nutrition, but I would contribute most of it to the varroa mite. And so it's pretty intense management to keep them under control, keep the bees fed, keep them healthy, and have productive colonies.
And of course there's the challenge of outside competition, which Nixon says is really affecting their business.
Imported honey has affected the domestic market here in a large way. It's really driving down our prices for honey. So we're having to be a little more creative on our marketing to sell our honey for a good profitable price. So it's very important to buy from your local beekeeper and buy American honey.
Reporting in Pulaski County for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
John, thanks so much. And speaking of honeybees, these right here are literally their worst enemy. After the break, Ray rejoins us to talk about the potential threat of Asian hornets. Could they be making their way to Georgia? Stay tuned. As if COVID-19 wasn't enough to deal with, enter into the fray the so-called murder hornets. We've received some inquiries here at the Monitor about whether or not they pose any threat to Georgia. Ray DeLessio did some research and joins us again from Henry County with more on what he learned. Hey, Ray.
Yeah, and Kenny, we first started hearing about these Asian hornets, aka the murder hornets, back in December of 2019. This past December, that was the very first reported sighting in Washington state. Since then, there's only been 2 more reported sightings, I believe. All of the insects that were found were dead. Nonetheless, it still has a lot of people concerned. Are they a threat to the bee population here in the United States? More importantly, Could they kill human beings? What kind of effect could they have on the honeybee population, more specifically here in Georgia? So to kind of put everybody's mind at ease, we sought out the expertise of Keith Delaplane, who is a professor at the University of Georgia, also the director of the honeybee program there. I was able to do a Zoom interview with Keith, and he was able to kind of dispel some of the myths that are out there about these Asian hornets. Well, Keith, I can't thank you enough for joining the Farm Monitor. Is there any fear at this moment that they could arrive here in Georgia? Do they pose any threat to Georgia residents?
Short answer is no. In fact, Ray, before our interview, I Google mapped the distance between Atlanta and Custer, Washington, and it's over 2,700 miles. So this is not an acute danger by any stretch.
And you look at some of the video of these hornets in action, and I can understand why people are worried, especially beekeepers, because these things really, they go into these honeybee hives and they brutally, and I mean brutally, destroy these honeybees. Is there anything that honeybee keepers can do maybe in the future if these things arrive?
Yeah, and I think this is a good moment to mention, a lot of your listeners have probably heard these hornets described as murder hornets. And I think it's important to set straight that term was coined by Japanese researchers in the context of honeybees, not humans. So I do want to emphasize that this is more of a beekeeper problem, I think, than a general public concern. But for the beekeepers, that name is fairly well earned because they really are bad on honeybees. They're native to Southeast Asia, where honeybees are native, and they're just very good at picking them out of the air. And they butcher the bees. A hornet will capture a bee on the wing, then they will decapitate it, take off its wings, its legs, its abdomen, and take home only the thorax, which contains most of the muscle and protein. So as far as prevention for beekeepers, there are a variety of homemade trap designs that beekeepers try to catch adults with fermenting fruit juices and alcohol, for example. These can be effective, but it often boils down to the hard work of tracking a hornet back to its nest. And it's a lot of work. I've sometimes seen beekeepers in Europe, which have other species of hornets, resort to fly swatters.
Yeah.
And they will literally go out and swat the hornets that they see in their apiaries. So this is certainly something that Georgia beekeepers do not want, do not need. Of course, we've had a string of problems with honeybee health for over a decade now. And this is kind of one final insult on top of injury.
And I know there's really no way to interview one of these Asian hornets to find out what their mindset is, but do we know, Keith, why they target these honeybees? Is there a motive behind them? I mean, has there been enough studies on it to figure out why they attack these hives?
Well, let's distinguish between the honeybee that you and I know, which is a European species, as opposed to the honeybees that live in Asia. The honeybees in Asia have some defensive mechanisms against this hornet. The Asian honeybees will mob an attacking hornet, and they elevate their thoracic temperatures by vibrating their wings, and they can actually kill the thing by cooking it.
Wow.
Now, the European honeybees that we have here in Georgia and throughout the United States does not have that behavior. So they are sitting ducks, as you may say, and totally vulnerable to these hornets. So it is a bit unfortunate that the most commercially important honeybee has no natural defenses against this hornet.
I think what's interesting too, when I was researching these Asian hornets, one thing that stood out to me is that these colonies can produce multiple queens. I'm no bee expert by any stretch of the imagination. Is that the norm when you're talking bee colonies, or is that pretty much unique to these Asian hornets?
This is a reproductive pattern that's fairly typical across wasps. What you have is a colony that is only active during summertime. They start as individual queens in spring, And they spend their whole summer just building up a workforce of workers who then in turn produce more queens and males at the end of the season. So an average colony of wasps, even some of our native wasps, may produce queens in the neighborhood of 100. But the likelihood of any of those individuals surviving winter and successfully founding a new nest the next year is quite small. I think in the case of the Asian hornet, it's only about 30% of them that overwinter, and even a smaller number that actually produce a successful colony. So their reproductive rate is fairly typical for other wasps in their group.
Yeah, well, Keith, we appreciate your time. And if these things ever do arrive here in Georgia and become a major threat here, you can rest assured we'll be reaching back out to you.
Be happy to do so, Ray.
All right, Keith, thanks so much.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
Ray, Dr. Delaplane, thank you so much. Some interesting insights there. Well, up next, we're taking you inside a Georgia poultry house that raises chickens for Perdue Foods. Erin NEESMITH needing a little elbow grease for this one. Another ag adventure when the Farm Monitor continues.
On a pond near Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, USDA scientists take samples to test for E. coli, which indicates the potential presence of harmful bacteria. Overhead, they use drones to capture images from the same spots. Later in the lab, they'll analyze the sample data and images to identify which parts of the pond to evaluate for potential crop contamination from irrigation water. Yakov Pachepsky leads the team from the Agricultural Research Service.
What we are doing is helping to figure out where, when, and how to take samples. And eventually we are pretty sure that farmers will use this technology.
Farmers who need a simple, affordable way to test irrigation water quality could benefit. This experimental drone captures multiple images.
Our drone is equipped with 5 different cameras. One of them is a multispectral camera, which does 5 different wavelengths per shot. And what we can pick up on the photographs is something we just can't see with our own eyes.
From the boat and from the shore, the team samples in multiple areas and depths.
We will typically pick anywhere between 3 to 5 points, and at each of those transects we will do 4 to 5 different depths.
In the future, drones may also collect the water samples as well as images. The ARS researchers hope this technology will help farmers save time and money while promoting food safety from farm to fork.
We want to make sure that whatever the farmers are required to do, that it's not going to put a strain on them. So this may be an easier way of them doing that by just flying a drone over and seeing what areas should be sampled.
In Queenstown, Maryland, for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Pat O'Leary.
Well, finally this week, after a brief hiatus due to COVID-19, Ag Adventures with Erin NEESMITH is once again on the move. Her latest ag adventure, we find Erin sharing some real estate with about 20,000 of Perdue Foods' finest little birds.
Well, hello friends, welcome back to another ag adventure. I'm in Spalding County today at Greengate Farms, and in my years of working in agriculture, one of the things I love most about farmers is that they wear so many different hats. They're mechanics, they're nutritionists, they're meteorologists, but one of my favorites is that they're caretakers. The livelihood of their animals is so vital to them. So today I'm excited to experience an adventure with one of my young farmer and rancher members, Miss Tara Green. And Tara's going to tell us a little bit about her operation and what we get to experience today. So tell us about it, Tara. So we own a poultry and beef cattle farm, and we also own a tree service. So that's where Stephen is today, so he's not able to be with us. But here we have a 4-house broiler farm, and we grow chickens for Perdue Foods. So today we're gonna let you guys come in, and we're gonna break out the chickens. So what that means is up until this age, they've only been in half the house. So now we're gonna break them out, and we're gonna let them have access to the entire house now that they can keep themselves a little bit warmer, and it's just time for the room, so they have more room to run around in the houses. So we're gonna let y'all come on in and check it out. Okay, Tara, this has already been an adventure because I had to get suited up. How come you don't have to be suited up? So since this is our farm, we have certain shoes that we leave down here that we don't wear into town or any place like that. So we know where we've been, and we try to limit where we've been in these clothes and these shoes. So we just don't know where y'all have been, and even though mistakenly you could have been in contact with something, so we just want everything to be biosecure as possible. So we've suited y'all up, so now we're gonna go on in, and we're gonna step into the bleach powder just to add one more layer of protection. All right, Erin, so this is house number 1. And we're gonna start in here. Over here, helping us is Billy and David. Hey, Billy, hey, David. Nice to meet you. Do a quarantine handshake. All right, so we're gonna start by taking up the curtains. So we'll come over here. I'm gonna let David and Billy lead in this. We can just help them along. Fantastic. So how long has the curtain been down? The curtain's been down since they came. Okay. So they've only been in half the house since they came. So now it's time to give them a little bit more space. And then the fans are back here, so this will just be able to give them more airflow now that they need it to be a little bit cooler in the houses. All right, so we've walked to the other end of the house now from where we put the curtain up, and then we noticed the sound is a lot different. The chicks are down here, there's some water running.
The feed is
feed,
running.
okay.
Yeah, the feed's
so
running.
explain to us what our next step is in this house. So now we're gonna use the red trays, just not to scare the chickens too bad, but we just wanna kinda encourage them to move, because like we said, that whole spot up there, the other half of the house, is completely new to them. And so we just gotta kind of give them a little bit of encouragement and tell them like it's okay. So we're just gonna walk kind of towards the other end of the house to help encourage them to keep moving.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Okay, Tara, that was definitely a dusty experience, but an incredible adventure. Incredible that you all do this every time you get new flocks in the house. And just to see you and your employee team, the incredible care that you take for every animal that's in your care is just amazing. So thank you for what you do. I hope that you all have enjoyed this ag experience. Let me tell you what, if you want a daily education about what it's like to be a poultry operator, to have cattle, to raise a family on a farm, follow Tara Green on Instagram. She's on social media, Greengate Farms. She's incredible. So thank you again, Tara. What an incredible ag experience. We look forward to seeing you next time on another ag adventure.
Great job, Erin. Thank you so much. And as always, thank you for watching the Farm Monitor. Here's a reminder for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening out on the farm. Be sure you check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and you'll see what's up in the world of farming and with us here on the show. For Ray DeLesio and everyone here at the show, I'm Kenny Burgamy saying take care, be safe. We'll see you next week here on the Farm Monitor.